If you're here for hype, this isn't that video. But if you actually want to understand XRP from first principles, subscribe, because that's what we do here. Let's strip this down to the core. What is money, really? At its simplest form, money is just a system for transferring value. That's it. Everything else, banks, fees, delays, those are layers built on top of that system. Now here's the problem. The current system for moving money globally is inefficient. Not slightly inefficient, structurally inefficient. It's slow, it's expensive, and it requires trust in multiple intermediaries that don't necessarily need to exist. If you send money from one country to another, it doesn't just go from point A to point B. It goes through a chain. Banks talk to other banks. Accounts need to be pre-funded. Liquidity gets locked in different regions. That's not a technological limitation. That's a system design problem. So the real question becomes, can this system be redesigned? That's where XRP comes in, not as an idea of number go up, but as infrastructure. XRP is designed to be a bridge, a neutral asset that allows value to move between different currencies without requiring pre-funded accounts. Instead of holding money everywhere, you hold liquidity in one place and use XRP as the connector. In theory, this makes the system faster, cheaper, more efficient. Now let's apply first principles thinking. If something is faster, cheaper, and more efficient, does it automatically win? No. Because the world doesn't run purely on efficiency. It runs on incentives, regulation, and trust. Banks don't just switch systems because something is better. They switch when the risk of not switching becomes higher than the risk of change. So for XRP to succeed, it's not enough to be technically superior. It has to align with incentives. It has to fit within regulatory frameworks, and it has to integrate into existing systems without breaking them. That's a much harder problem than most people think. Now let's talk about price, because that's what everyone really cares about. Can XRP reach $100? From a physics perspective, there's no law that says it can't. But from a systems perspective, that number implies something very specific. It implies massive adoption. It implies deep integration into global finance. It implies that XRP is not just used, but relied upon. Because price is not magic, it's a reflection of demand relative to supply. So if you want XRP at $100, you're not really asking about price. You're asking whether XRP becomes part of the financial backbone of the world. And that's a different level of question. Now, is that possible? Yes. Is it guaranteed? No. Because there are competing systems, there are political forces, there are regulatory barriers, and there's inertia, the tendency of systems to resist change. Most people underestimate inertia. The current financial system, as flawed as it is, works. Not perfectly, but well enough. And well enough is often the biggest barrier to innovation. So XRP is not competing against failure. It's competing against a system that already functions. Which means it has to be significantly better, not just slightly better. And more importantly, it has to be adopted. Because technology without adoption is irrelevant. You can build the most efficient system in the world, but if no one uses it, it doesn't matter. So the real game here is not technology, it's adoption. And adoption is driven by incentives, trust, and timing. Now here's where things get interesting. If XRP does achieve meaningful adoption, not theoretical but real, the price will follow. Not because people believe in it, but because it's being used. And that's the key distinction most people miss. Belief can move markets in the short term, but usage defines them in the long term. So instead of asking, will XRP hit $100, a better question would be, is XRP becoming necessary? Because if it becomes necessary, price becomes a consequence, not a prediction. And that's how you should think about it. Not emotionally, not based on hype, but based on systems. Because at the end of the day, the future of XRP won't be decided by YouTubers, tweets, or speculation. It will be decided whether it solves a real problem at a global scale in a way that the current system cannot ignore. And that's a much more interesting problem to watch.